On the surface, the Millers were the American dream personified. A beautiful home in a quiet cul-de-sac, a pristine lawn, and a garage that held 2 cars and a lifetime of ambitions. There was Richard, a respected architect, his wife Sarah, a homemaker known for her elaborate garden parties, and their 2 children, a son, Daniel, and a daughter, Emily. Their lives, as captured in this photo album, were a montage of birthdays, holidays, and summer vacations. They were a family of smiles, frozen in time, their happiness as undeniable as the sunlight in these pictures. But this perfect picture was a carefully constructed lie. It was a masterpiece of deception painted over a canvas of unspeakable cruelty. Years later, when police opened a cold case file and a team of detectives started digging, they would learn that these moments of happiness were nothing more than a front. They were clues, breadcrumbs left behind for those who knew how to read them. And what they would discover was a horrifying secret, one so dark and twisted that it would redefine the very meaning of the word family. The first crack in the Miller family's flawless facade appeared on a chilly November night. It was the night their closest friend, a young woman named Clara Jensen, vanished without a trace. Her disappearance would haunt the small town of Arbor Falls for years, an unsolved mystery that would eventually lead investigators back to the very people who were supposed to be her friends, the Miller family. November 12, 1998. The official report reads, Clara Jensen, age 24, last seen leaving the Miller family's home after a dinner party. Her car was found abandoned a few miles from the Miller residence. The keys were still in the ignition and her purse was on the passenger seat. There was no sign of a struggle. No witnesses. Just a young woman gone. At the time, the police classified the case as a missing person. I remember the case. It was a puzzle. Clara was a bright, promising young woman. No enemies, no reason to run away. When the police questioned the Millers, they were the picture of grief and concern. They claimed Clara left their home around 11 p.m., saying she had to go home early. They seemed genuinely distraught. They said they couldn't imagine who would want to hurt her. But a strange detail emerged from the investigation. In the days following Clara's disappearance, the Millers, known for being incredibly reserved, went out of their way to cooperate with the police. They offered to let detectives search their home, provided detailed accounts of the evening, and even organized search parties. It seemed like the perfect demonstration of innocent grief. But years later, a detective would call it what it really was, a performance. What the investigators at the time didn't know was that while the Millers were posing for photos at the search party, a dark secret was buried deep in their backyard. The details of that secret would be revealed only after a shocking discovery, one that would connect a decades-old crime to a seemingly innocent family photo. The Clara Jensen case went cold. The police had no leads and the trail ran dry. The Millers eventually moved away, selling their perfect home and leaving Arbor Falls behind. The town slowly forgot about the missing girl, but one person never did. A rookie detective named Ben Carter, who was a teenager at the time of the disappearance, became obsessed with the case. He spent years re-examining the evidence, looking for what everyone else had missed. The Clara Jensen case was a ghost story. It haunted everyone. When I got assigned to the cold case unit, it was the first thing I pulled. I read every report, looked at every photo. The original detectives were good, but they missed something. A tiny detail that, years later, would make all the difference. Detective Carter noticed a recurring element in the Miller family's photos. A small, faded garden spade that appeared in the background of several images. It was a seemingly insignificant object, but its presence was a constant. The shovel wasn't in every picture, but it was in a lot of them. I started wondering why. Why was this specific tool so prominent? Then I looked at the photos of their garden. There was a section of the flower bed that looked different. The soil was a different color, and the plants were all relatively new, even in the older photos. Carter couldn't shake the feeling that the Millers had not just moved away from Arbor Falls. They had run away from a secret buried in their backyard. He applied for a warrant to excavate the former Miller property, a decision many of his superiors saw as a wild goose chase. When they started digging in that specific section of the garden, they found nothing at first. A day went by, then a second. The digging was slow and methodical. The police were on the verge of giving up. Then, on the third day, a forensic technician struck something. It was a bag. Inside that bag, they found personal effects belonging to Clara Jensen, including her wallet and a locket she never took off. But that wasn't the most important thing they found. Buried with her belongings was a single, disturbing piece of evidence. A digital camera. The camera was waterlogged, but its memory card was still intact. What the police found on that card would blow the case wide open and reveal the shocking truth behind the Millers' perfect family photos. The memory card held a series of photos taken from inside the Miller family's home on the night Clara vanished. The photos showed Clara at the dinner party, smiling and happy. But the final two photos were different. One was a grainy, chaotic image of a struggle. A flash of a hand, a terrified expression on Clara's face. The last photo was even more chilling. A candid, unplanned shot of the entire Miller family, standing in their living room. Richard, Sarah, Daniel, and Emily. Their faces were not filled with panic or remorse. They were calm. Almost triumphant. The last photo wasn't a mistake. It was a trophy. A snapshot of their heinous act. Richard and Sarah had convinced their children, Daniel and Emily, to help them kill Clara. The motive, as detectives would later piece together, was simple and horrific. Clara had been planning to expose a financial fraud scheme Richard had been running for years. She was a close friend and a witness. They feared she would talk, so they silenced her. And in a horrifying family pact, they all participated. This wasn't a crime of passion. It was an execution. And the worst part was that the children were in on it. They helped their parents and they lived with that secret for years. The photos in the album, the ones that showed them smiling and happy, they were all a part of the cover-up. They lived their whole lives with this secret, with the fear of being discovered always in the back of their minds. They never told anyone, never cracked under the pressure. The Killer family was a unit. They protected their secret and their lie, and they would have gotten away with it if a single photo, the most innocuous of them all, the one with the small garden spade, hadn't led a determined detective to dig a little deeper. The photos told the story of a perfect family, but the final, secret photo told the truth of a horrifying secret buried in the Miller's backyard. It was a story not just about a murder, but about how a family can commit the ultimate betrayal and wear a smile while doing it.